but I was out in the orchards the last couple of days, and so I just have a couple of slides to share with you. First of all, it was kind of a scary week with all that cold weather, and I think we made it through this. So yay, some good news, because at least I couldn't find any damaged buds on peaches or apples, things. I think we made it through this cold weather. So maybe Mo was hoping for, a good 22 degrees to get us out of the misery of this season. But anyway, that was good to see. Yeah, so just a couple of things. Now is really a great time to go looking for European red mite nymphs on the underside of leaves. And so this is at URI's orchard, where I was really surprised, but each one of those little black specks is actually a red mite nymph, a newly hatched red mite nymph. It's a great time to go looking into your orchard for these on the underside of the cluster leaves, especially leaves that are close to main scaffold limbs, and look for these, look for the mite nymphs. The good thing, so you could spray at petal fall with a number of different miticides. And the good thing about spraying at petal fall for red mites, if you have big numbers, is they have not started laying summer eggs yet. So they're all in the, they're all nymphs, and they haven't even become adults yet. So it's a good time to try and kill them. One other thing I saw, this is a little tough to see, but you can see kind of the shadows of the legs, and these are a couple of nymphs of white apple leafhopper. In one orchard I was in yesterday, I found quite a few of these white apple leafhopper nymphs. So when they usually start hatching, they hatch right around petal fall, so they're right on time. Usually, so it's hard to say how big of a problem white apple leafhopper nymphs are, if they're mostly just a nuisance once they become adults and they're flying in your face. Especially for white apple leafhopper nymphs, the second generation happens kind of late in August. So when you might have pick your own people out there and your own pickers, they can be quite annoying to pickers. They can be controlled with 7 or carbaryl sprays. So if you are putting on carbaryl as a thinner at petal fall or soon after petal fall, you hopefully would be controlling white apple leafhopper nymphs. Now there is also another leafhopper, the rose leafhopper, that looks pretty darn similar to the white apple leafhopper, but they start out the season on rose, like multiflora rose, and then will migrate into the orchard, usually in mid-June to late June. So that's also another little nymph to watch out for. And just one other comment. So I see a lot of hungry leaves out in the orchard, a lot of fruit cluster leaves that are looking very hungry, and this was worrying some growers. I think, and I know John about a week or 2 ago was talking about some nutrient sprays pre-bloom, but for the people that haven't done that, I think that we're getting into some warm weather, we're getting into a much better growing season, and so I think in a week the trees are going to be looking a lot better. All right, that is all I have to say.
Great, thank you, Heather. I appreciate your helping out and coming up. For Parasilla, for anybody who has pears, they are generally going to experience Parasilla, and it's a particularly difficult insect to manage. Their life cycles, or rather their generations, tend to overlap throughout the season, and once they become a little older as nymphs, they become harder to kill. And they also, because of that overlapping generation, tend to develop resistance to pesticides. So the Scilla overwinters as an adult. This adult is a darker color than what you will see over here on the right-hand picture as the summer adults. They overwinter under the crevices and the cracks of the trees. This is why a dormant oil is a really good way to help reduce your populations moving forward. This picture here on the bottom in the middle, this is just a way to sort of show you a really good close-up of what a Scilla looks like. It's really kind of a tiny cicada in its shape and form, in the way the its wings tent over its body. So once the adults emerge in the early spring, they start to lay eggs. And so what you might see is this here on the left, this branch, there's these little yellow dots. Everybody able to see those little yellow dots? Those are Scilla eggs. And now over here on the right, you can see a very magnified image of what they look like, and you can see little yellow dots on the eggs. But these are very, very tiny, and they are often laid on the underside of the leaves along the midrib. So once those eggs hatch, you end up with nymphs. And so that's that first picture that I showed you at the opening screen. These two earlier instar nymphs, these are what you're going to target for your management if you do have Scilla. And right now, we're sort of at this really tiny, small stage. This one on the bottom left here, actually, I couldn't even see it with my naked eye. I had to use a microscope to inspect the leaves to find them. So they are definitely out and emerging and hatching out of their eggs. And so if you do have pairs, it's time to go out and start looking for nymphs to see if they're there. One of the ways, because they're so hard to see, one of the ways that you can sort of pinpoint where to look is look for ants. So ants, as you know, with aphids are drawn to honeydew. Well, Scilla do the same thing. It's why they're a problem moving forward when you have fruit, that honeydew covers the fruit and then you get that sooty mold on it. Well, so the ants will indicate to you that there is something there that's causing a sweet substance to be there. Chances are with the pair this time of year, it's going to be a Scilla nymph. So you go and you check that. And if you have Scilla, you may need to go out and make a spray application for that once petal fall has passed. And again, this on the right here, that's that hard shell. It's way easier to see, which is, you know, easy on the eyes. Unfortunately, at that point, it's not really effective to manage it. It's going to be really hard to kill. All right, one more thing I wanted to go over, because it really is the time of year when we're all worried about fire blight. And even though it's cool during bloom this year, there are other things that can pop up that look like fire blight and might make us worried about having an outbreak. Dan will cover the disease end of that, but I wanted to cover today, there are wood-boring insects that are currently in their larval form inside of these twigs. And you can see over here on the right, this little, there was an egg laid in this leaf axil. That egg, the larvae bored into the twig, and it made what looked like a canker. So these are symptoms that sort of, if you miss that frass there, these are symptoms that can make you think that maybe you do have a disease issue with your branch. And so what will happen is, because this larvae is hollowing out the twig, eventually that twig and the branch are going to they're going to die back, and they're going to look like it's blighted. So it's important to kind of trace the blighted branch down to its base. And if you see anything that's any frass, then you know that you had a borer in there and it's not actually a bacterial infection. And so what I found in there, you can, and of course, you know, you can snap the branch in half and you'll see that it's hollowed out, and then you'll often find some sort of larvae in there. And this is the one that I pulled out of this branch today. Not the prettiest looking critter, but it sure did a number on the branch. So just keep your eyes peeled and hope it's not fire blight. And that's all I've got.